Welcome back to my channel for another video. If you are returning, I am back with another one. Today we're going to be discussing the topic of knowing your worth, overcoming self-doubt, and learning to trust yourself. So let's get into it. So I've always been somebody who's placed myself on a little bit of a pedestal for most of my life. Found that for a lot of people it's actually quite an intimidating quality. If you carry yourself that way, it naturally just makes you more of an intimidating person. They might say things like, oh, she's too much. Who does she think she is? She's doing too much. But the belief that I always had that I wasn't even aware of, and the reason I actually carried myself this way to begin with, was that belief of like, why should I doubt myself? Why should I doubt myself if I'm alive? I'm worthy just because I'm breathing, just because I'm alive. Why shouldn't I be confident and take up space even if it makes somebody else feel uncomfortable? I feel like there's this tendency to go throughout our whole lives not wanting to take up space, and especially not wanting to make another person feel uncomfortable. It's like we try to earn something or perform for others because if they see us as amazing, then we must be great. We must be worthy of all good things or deserving of all good things. I tried not to take up space because I was afraid of making someone else feel uncomfortable. Throughout my whole life, I noticed this was a very big pattern. Is like I would always try to make myself smaller if it meant that someone else would feel more comfortable about themselves. One day it struck me and I thought to myself, what about my comfort? I'm spending so much time worrying about whether or not this other person feels comfortable, but I'm never thinking about what I have to do to meet my own needs. Always compromising my own boundaries just so that they can feel alright. People often think that it's the most selfless act if you try and make other people feel more comfortable than you do first. And let me tell you why in most instances that's actually the exact opposite. That's probably the most selfish thing that you can do because of resentment. You keep prioritizing everybody else, you're gonna build resentment, and who do you think has to hear about it when you feel angry and you feel upset? You're gonna take it out on those very people. Those very people have to face the consequences of you not being the absolute best version of yourself. When you don't at least try to become the better version of yourself, the people around you will suffer. And the opposite is true as well. When you do work hard on yourself every single day, everybody around you reaps the rewards as well. So it's like almost as if you're taking everybody else with you. The day I realized my worth was when I got to know my truest depths. The depths of myself that I was suppressing because of my fear of being seen. I realized that my worth lied in more than what just other people thought of me when they looked at me. I used to be the type of person when somebody would take one look at me and decide that they didn't like me, I would take it so personally and I would feel so upset by it. Because to me, I thought it was always really unfair because I was like, you don't even know me. But then I started to learn slowly in my life that whatever's outside of you, no matter how hard you try and perform and jump through hoops for other people and whatever it is that you try to do, you put on a whole act for them, it will 100,000% never be enough because you are competing for something that there's no finish line for. My love. I realized over time that even if I lose everyone else, it's far worse to lose myself. What happens when you start living for other people is that you also start living in severe fear. That fear is based on your inability to actually be yourself. And for me, a happy life is an authentic life, and you cannot tell me otherwise. The only way to live a truly happy life is to be authentic, to be yourself, regardless of the price that you might have to pay. It's a bigger price to pay when you're being someone that you're not, because you will attract things at the same frequency of the person that you're not. So let's say you're playing a character. You will only attract things at the same frequency of that character. You will not be attracting who you truly are as a person, because if you're not showing up that way in the world, there's nothing to show for your efforts. There's nothing to show for who you really are. Who you are when you're alone, even if you claim that as your authentic self, means nothing. Because when you step out into the world, it's the energies, the vibrations, whatever you vibrate, that's what matters most. That's what you're going to attract. I don't believe that playing characters or caring what other people think has ever been the way or the roadmap to a happy life. I don't think it ever has been, and I don't think it ever will be. Let's talk about learning to trust yourself. This was a big one for me. It's a huge lesson that I'm learning right now. I had very deep abandonment wounds when it came down to relationships and friendships even. But it wasn't really about the fact that I was afraid of somebody else abandoning me. It was more so I was always scared of me abandoning myself. I broke my own trust time and time again, so building back that trust has taken so much time. And the way I did this was by not voicing my concerns, not voicing my needs, not setting boundaries, not prioritizing what I actually needed or wanted because I didn't want to burden anybody else. But if you play this role, if you play the role of the nice girl, you will have to pay the price for that, and it is a big price to pay. Yes, maybe you won't be seen as a threat because for a long time, that's why I wanted to avoid taking up so much space, is because I didn't want to seem like a threat, especially to other women. I would really want to dim down my light. It's going to do a lot more damage than you think, because you'll soon realize that it's better to not be liked than to keep compromising your own needs and wants. Because I didn't want to be an inconvenience to anybody else, it made me run away from emotional connection to anybody. I had adopted the belief that if I do get too close to somebody, then eventually, inevitably, I will abandon myself. And that it's only when I'm alone that I can find that feeling of peace or that feeling of solace somehow. Which that isn't real peace, by the way. Completely isolating yourself from everybody that loves you and everybody that cares about you and believing that, oh, I'm just gonna level up in my silence and whatever. It's not real peace. Because remember, you're leveling up in order to become a better version for them too. And for yourself, but especially even for them, so you can inspire something in them, you can maybe plant a seed. And this way I would avoid the feeling in my heart that I couldn't trust myself. If I was away from people, it meant that I had more trust in myself, and I always wondered why that was. The thing that's really allowed me to turn this around was honoring my relationships, but most of all, honoring the relationship I have with myself and realizing that whatever happens in here is always going to be reflected outward in my relationships. Even when I'm meeting people, whether it's at work or whether it's in my day-to-day life, I always see the person as a mirror because I'm like, what is this person here to teach me? And of course, sometimes you get caught in daily life that it's hard to identify what this person is trying to teach you. It's hard in general to be conscious sometimes because there's so much happening and there's so much noise, right? So it's very, very difficult. But I try my best to set that intention every single morning or at least every single day because I realize if I meet someone really great, that mirrors something inside me. And if I meet someone that triggers something inside me, that's also a mirror for me too. They're mirroring something that I haven't dealt with yet within myself.